Okay, guys. So, full disclosure, I thought that this year's NHL trade deadline was insane. But then Tradon goes into our group message and was like, "Oh yeah, it was mediocre." So it just leaves me sitting here questioning my life and everything that I know. But anyway, Tradon, tell us all about it, man.
Yeah, I mean, so today the NHL trade deadline ended at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. As you mentioned, as you already kind of alluded to, I mean, it was kind of a hectic weekend. The day of it had some good stuff going on, but I mean, I think that we talked about this, that, you know, the prices weren't going to be low. There's not a lot of money, you know, that that teams are able to do much with. And I just didn't see as crazy stuff as I thought. I think that when we get into it and we get into the individual trades, I think we'll kind of nitpick the interesting parts. But overall, I think it was good, but it wasn't insane. But we'll get to that. Before we get to that, I'm not even going to say what the scores were for fantasy, because it doesn't matter. You four boys are all in the playoffs, and that's all that matters. So instead of recapping last week, we're going to set up your guys' playoff for round one. Tyler, you're taking as the 4th seed. You're taking on Eric. Right now, you are getting destroyed, but it is the first day, so it's early. You probably don't have a goalie that's played yet.
I don't. Not yet.
So there you go. Same thing. 2nd seed Alex is taking on a 3rd seed James. James, again, you're getting killed, but I think it's early. You haven't played a goalie, so.
All 4 of my goalies played today, so I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Did you make the right one?
I think you made the wrong ones.
As the one who created the league, can you tell? Is it 2 weeks of playoffs, just like football?
Yes, 2 weeks.
Okay, so I'll give everyone the updates after the first week next week. But now we'll just get into the trade deadline stuff.
Hold up a second.
Yeah,
that what Alex was saying, that might actually be worse, having all 4 goalies playing rather than none, because it's happened where like you don't know if they're going to be playing or not, because especially with the season, there's a lot of back-to-backs and things, and like it'll say like they're playing, you have them starting and everything, and then you just see like your other goalie on the bench had like 89 points, and then your starter had like 0 because he didn't fucking play. Yeah, so it could be worse, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. It's plus you give up a roster spot that could go to a player that could otherwise be playing that day. You know, it could be anybody. You know.
Yeah.
But you guys, I'm not going to try and like say that how to do it, because I clearly don't know how. So we're just going to get into the trade deadline stuff that I actually, can kind of follow. Starting with probably what the biggest trade of the weekend was. We saw Taylor Hall get traded. We all expected this. Taylor Hall Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar went to Boston in exchange for Anders Bjork and a 2021 second-round pick to Buffalo. And Buffalo also retained half of Taylor Hall's salary. He only has one this year left, so not like it's a huge deal. They needed to do that so that they could at least get the trade done. So I asked James to take a look at this trade. He was interested in kind of breaking this down. So, from the, high level, what do you think of this trade for Boston in particular?
Oh, dude, Boston came away as a clear winner of this trade.
Yeah.
I think that the Sabres are literally just trying to get rid of people and trying to amass draft picks or whatever. It's a complete rebuild for them. They're getting rid of everybody except for Jack Eichel, which is weird because they probably should have gotten rid of Jack Eichel. Right, Eric?
Yeah. They should.
Regardless of the fact, he went for a second rounder, which is a relatively low price for somebody of his caliber. But as you had alluded to multiple times in this podcast, he is not as good as he seems. And his career low shot percentage is proof of that. As of this last season, I think he's shooting at like 2.3%, which is crazy bad. He has 2 goals on the season, but he has 17 assists. But on the flip side of that, he is explosive. And he's a gifted playmaker. He can skate really, really, really well. He's not, like I said, not the best goal scorer, but he can find open lanes to facilitate. And as Tradon, the hockey guys, mentioned multiple times, Boston needs help with everything else except for that perfection line. Like that first line scores everything and nothing else does work. And Taylor Hall is going to be on that second line as a left winger, and he's going to help David Krejci a bunch. Krejci's a good passer, so maybe that good passing will help Taylor Hall be a better scorer. Who knows? One of the other things that I kind of looked at was the scheme that the Bruins run, and they run this scheme that's kind of old school, but it's like they get the puck in deep and they cycle the puck. Hall doesn't fit that system at all. Hall is more of a running gun, more of a new age, let's go fast, and I think that could be beneficial for the Bruins as a whole. This makes the second line defense or the first line defense, they have to react differently to them, because typically when you play the Bruins, you know what you're getting. It's the same thing over and over and over again, and people can defend that pretty well unless you're on the perfection line. But now with Taylor Hall being in there, it adds a different wrench to it. Makes it a different twist to now you have to defend somebody fast and who can play well. And I just want to see how this turns out. I think that he, in the next couple of games, will probably triple the amount of goals he's already had. I mean, he'll go from 2 to 8. So, like, this could be possible. And I'm excited to see how much better he is. He's going to be playing for a team that's actually winning. Playing for a winning team changes your mentality. You have something to look forward to. Playing on the Sabres, you're like, I go into work every day and do what? Yeah. What's the biggest goal here? For us to rebuild? Nah, he's playing for a cup now. So this is going to be different. It's going to be nice to watch.
Yeah, that is true. Look, I think the biggest thing that sticks out for me is the second round. Like he went for a second round. We look at other players, and we'll get to them next, that went for first rounders that, in my opinion, I mean, aren't even close to Hart Trophy winners in this league. Do you think that, I mean, is it clear that there wasn't any value in this guy, even though he is a former Hart Trophy winner? I mean, do you think it's kind of like highway robbery on the Boston, on the Boston side?
Yeah, it was a bad season for Taylor Hall this year, and he's playing on a bad team, so who can blame him? Everybody on that Sabres team is having a bad season right now. Look at the record. They're just a bad team, bad coaching, bad organization.
Yeah.
It's really hard to play that well, and with the numbers he's putting up and that really low shooting percentage, it was going to be hard for them to find value in that. So I think they got what they could, and they tried to get rid of him early so it wouldn't be that much of a headache. They're blowing it up, man. Like, why keep anybody who's not going to be of value to you in the next couple of years?
That's fair. And I guess, I mean, Buffalo needed to do anything to get something from him, to your point. When it comes to Curtis Lazar and Anders Bjork, on the Curtis Lazar side, I think that's just a depth move. I don't think there's anything to really, point out there. Anders Bjork is going to play for Buffalo, and hopefully he'll play a bigger role on that team. But to end this one, Taylor Hall's two goals, 17 assists for 19 points, dash 21 on his on the season. I do think that he's going to add some secondary scoring that the team needs, to your point. And I think that David Krejci is an amazing hockey player, and I think that he's gonna benefit from being on a line with that type of player. My last question for you is: does Taylor Hall get anything close to an $8 million cap hit on his next contract next year?
If I know he wants to stay long term in Boston, he's come out and said that he's willing to sign another contract with Boston. If he plays well for the next couple of games and they win a cup with him being a pivotal part, I think he might even get more than that, just depending on how he plays.
I like it. That was the big blockbuster trade, in my opinion. Everyone was just waiting to find out where he was going, and he's going to Boston. And good luck, I guess. I'm not really a Taylor Hall fan, especially as he played for the Oilers, and he just was kind of an issue both on and off the ice. But I hope that he can, find some success there in Boston and give them a chance to go for a run. The next big one, in my opinion, was the Nick Foligno trade. Former captain of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm going to break this down before I ask Tyler about it, because it's a three-way trade, so it's a little bit interesting. So Nick Foligno was traded to Toronto. I'm sorry, it was ultimately traded to Toronto, but he actually came through the San Jose franchise, where San Jose actually retained half of his salary. So Steven Nosen, so how it breaks down, here's how everyone got their craps. Steven Nosen went to San Jose, and Nick Foligno ultimately went to San Jose. They retained 50% and then flipped him over to Toronto. So Toronto gets Steven Nosen and Nick Foligno. In exchange, San Jose gets a 4th round pick in the 2021 draft from Toronto, and the Columbus Blue Jackets get a 2021 first round pick and the 2022 4th round pick from Toronto. So basically how this worked is so Columbus needed someone to retain the salary to make it work because Toronto could not take all the salary. San Jose was gladly raised their hand to take the salary because it's not very much, and they just netted a 4th round pick out of it. To me, it was a very smart move for them because they just had to pay a couple $100,000 for a 4th round pick, no problems. And the main trade was Steven Nosen and Nick Foligno for a 1st and 4th round pick. Tyler, let's look at it from the Toronto side. Steven Nosen and, more importantly, Nick Foligno enter the Toronto Maple Leafs locker room and that roster. What do you think about the Toronto? What do you think about this trade from the Toronto perspective?
I think it gives Toronto a player that gives them something that they're lacking, which is that kind of grit, that grinder mentality. I think that Toronto Maple Leafs, a lot of high skill players that don't really have that hockey grit kind of attitude and kind of style play. Nick Foligno is the embodiment of that. He's one of the best grinders, best just come at you, full grind player in the NHL. That's why he's the captain of the Blue Jackets. That's why he was so successful there in Columbus. I think it gives Toronto that edge that they probably need to move forward. I think especially in the playoffs, having those kind of guys, those kind of players are really going to help you succeed. For example, Foligno this season has 106 hits. The Maple Leafs' current leader in hits is Jake Muzzin with 65. So nearing doubling their next best guy on the team that has hits. That I think tells you right off the bat the kind of player that Nick Foligno is, along with the fact that he's obviously can score and can make plays and can help you out with the goal scoring side. He's also a great defender as a forward. I think this is a great pickup for Toronto. I think it's going to make them better. I think, like I said, I think it's almost more on the intangible side. This is style play that's going to help them more than it is the actual stats on the stat sheet at the end of the game.
Yeah. Look, Toronto's going for it. James, you're bang on. You called it you called it a couple weeks ago where you thought that Toronto was going to be the one from the north to go for it, and they were the one to go for it. And to get Nick Foligno, to get that type of player, to your point, Tyler, is a huge pickup because he's a fan favorite in Columbus because he's what Eric would call the glue guy, the guy in the locker room that just everybody loves, that he gets up and plays for games. He works his ass off. He gets in the corners. He's doubling the best defenseman in terms of hits, which is insane as a forward. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that clearly Toronto really, really wanted to find that type of player because they traded him for a 1st round pick. And going back to the last trade, does anybody think that Nick Foligno is a better player than Taylor Hall as a hockey player? I don't think anybody can come on here and say that to my face and honestly think that, but clearly his value is better than Taylor Hall, just what he brings to that team. I just don't think he's not a better hockey player. He's just more valuable for what Toronto needs. And so I agree with you. And my last question for you is, we know that Nick Foligno is this is his last year of his contract. He's going to be UFA after this year. So this is more of a rental situation for Toronto. Do you think Nick Foligno is going to find his way back to Columbus next year? We've seen it happen.
I don't think he will. I mean, why? Give me one good reason why you want to play with Columbus right now. I don't, there's 30 other teams in the league. Obviously, a bunch of them you don't want to play for, but I think there's better options. I think there's teams that are going to want that kind of player that are going to pay him more money and probably in a place that he's going to want to play more. Now, I'm not saying there's a 0% chance to go back to Columbus, but if I was Nick Foligno, I don't know if I want to go back to Columbus. I would probably want to explore other options, see if there's a better fit, definitely test the market. I feel like there's probably a better fit for Nick Foligno out there. So if I was a betting man, I'd say he does not return to Columbus. And
even if there was a new coach in Columbus, because Torts he's probably gone, dude. Let's be real. Torts is probably gone by now. So even if there's a new coach, you don't think he's going to come back and reunite with that same fan base and the same teammates that he loves.
Like I said, he might. I think there are a lot of things that have to go right. But as we're sitting here right now talking about the podcast, I don't see it. But like I said, it's possible. But I don't know. If I was him, I would look for a new start somewhere, get going. Obviously, he's been a huge part of that franchise, but they trade him away. Obviously, I understand it's just part of the game. But hey, man, I think it's time to turn the page and find somewhere new to play hockey.
I like that. I'm going to play the other side and say the guy's 33 years old. I know that he has a home in Columbus and he loves it and he loves the fan base. The fan base loves him. I would not be shocked if he signed there again to just finish out a season. Especially if Toronto wins the Stanley Cup, because he got his cup and now he can just go kind of sit back and I'm good. I can go live my life in Columbus where he seems to like it. Although to your point, if Torts leaves, I do wonder what they're going to do with Seth Jones, who is a huge Tortorella fan and who is a huge part of Seth Jones's kind of time here in the NHL. And if Seth Jones is gone, that team is nothing. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it's a lot closer odds than we think, but because we've seen it happen before, but it will remain to be seen. And I guess
see Seth Jones to the Kings, something like that in the offseason.
That would be pretty huge. That'd be pretty huge. We'll definitely talk about that in the summer if that happens. That would be shocking, but I've seen crazier things. Who knows? If you guys got a Seth Jones, I would be. You guys are on the right track.
I'd be happy.
I would be too. Although he's a franchise defenseman, he's gonna cost a lot in a trade there. And I guess really quick, you think Columbus did a pretty good job in netting a first round? I think that's a pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think they have now 3 first-round picks in 2021. I think they're definitely setting themselves up. I think they have 9 total picks in the 2021 draft. So yeah, they're definitely setting themselves up for the future. I think it was a win for them as well.
Love it. All right, moving on to the biggest trade for the Kings fans, I would say. And Alex was very quick to bring this up. He was so fired up. He texted me individually, being like, "Hey, I'm taking the Jeff Carter trade, so we're gonna get ready to do it." Alex, it's all yours. I'm gonna explain the trade really quick.
Go for it.
Jeff Carter is going to Pittsburgh in exchange for a 2022 third-round pick and a 2023 conditional fourth-round pick. Both of them are conditional. They're kind of conditional on how many games he plays, both in this year's playoffs for that 2022 pick and next year's season in the 2023 pick. I think he needs to play about 50% of the games, and then actually those picks become second and third-round picks respectively. In exchange, LA Kings did retain half of his salary at $2.6 million. Alex, as a Kings fan, what are you thinking right now?
It fucking hurts. Not gonna lie. Jeff Carter was my boy. He's my favorite player on the Kings. He helped lead the team to 2 Stanley Cup championships. That amazing 3-0 comeback against the Sharks in the 2014 playoffs. So it sucks, but he's 36 years old. He's only got 19 points on the season. He's definitely not the same guy he used to be. And he gets a chance to go for another cup. So, I text one of my buddies is like a huge Penguins fan. And I text him, I'm like, well, guess I'm a Penguins fan now. Like, I'm in. And, it does kind of help the Penguins in a way. He is traditionally a center, but can play on the wing. He has played on the wing with the Kings before. And, when you have Crosby and Malkin, who are both centers, getting wing scoring depth is always going to be a positive. It's going to suck missing him, but you know what? If the Penguins are down 3-0 in a series, don't worry. You have Jeff Carter. He's done it twice. So that's super helpful for the playoffs. But yeah, you know what? He's 36. He's definitely not the same guy he used to be, but he can still skate. He can still score. He's still the hottest player in the NHL. There's no doubt about that.
Man rocket.
He's a man rocket for sure.
Yeah. He is a gorgeous human being. So I'm gonna miss him. On the Seth Jones thing, totally separate. Never going to happen. As much as I would love to see it, like the Kings were rumored to be in, like, if the Sabres were going to trade Jack Eichel, but the Kings have the second best farm system in the league right now. They're not about to blow that up for Seth Jones.
Yeah.
I love it, but I don't see it. But
we don't want Jack Eichel either, though. We don't want him.
Yeah. So, anyway, like, I hope Carter plays well and is successful, and then those conditional picks become better picks. So, it's actually, you want to then now root for him, because he has had a lot of, a fair amount of health issues the last couple of seasons. So if he plays enough games, those picks get better for the Kings, and they just add into that insane depth that's, coming up. Yeah.
So you have them pegged. So I'm going to look on the Pittsburgh side really quick. You have him pegged as a winger, or do you think that he's going to fit that third line center? And then you have I've always talked on this podcast, you build through the middle. You're going to have Crosby, Malkin, and Jeff Carter. That is an elite three-line center.
That is an elite. I think that he can do both is more of what the beneficial side is. Like, looking at their roster, like, every one of their forwards is a center. It feels like half of them are centers. They obviously all can't play there, so that doesn't make any sense. I don't know the Penguins as well as I know some of the other teams, but and Malkin's been hurt, and I still think he's hurt. So probably right as he lines up now, he'll probably be a center since Malkin is still out. But also, like, wouldn't you want, like, pair Jeff Carter on a wing with either Crosby or Malkin? Like, that he's still got a good wrist shot. He's never been like a big slap shot guy, but he can still snipe it. And looking at, we talked about this, the Mass Mutual East is, at the beginning, we thought was going to be the hardest of the divisions. It ended up kind of falling apart, and the 4 teams that are in are going to be the 4 teams that make it. But to get through Washington, the Islanders, and Boston, Pittsburgh's going to need Jeff Carter to be playoff Jeff Carter again. So,
look, I agree with you because of the fact that Jeff Carter is a very flexible player, and that, to your point, he could play a third line center, but he could also take over on the wing. I would say he'd probably fit better with a Malkin type, just simply because I don't know how you can break up the Crosby, Gensel, Russ line. They're just like that. That's their first line, and it's just tough to break that up. Those are 3 solid players. So I think this is actually a huge pickup for them, and I think he's signed for 1 more year, so they get him for another year at half of his salary. I like this trade on the Pittsburgh side, but I actually like it on your guys' side too. Just really quick, the conditions for the 2022, it does get upgraded to a second round if the Penguins reach the Stanley Cup final and he plays in at least 50% of the games. And then for the 2023, it does become a third round if he plays in at least 50 games of next season. You presume he's going to be able to do that as long as he maintains some sort of, resemblance of what he is normally like. So I think you guys might see some upgrades on some picks, which is a huge move for you guys. I like it from your guys' perspective, because I think we all can agree, you guys need to get younger and get faster. And unfortunately, Jeff Carter is just past that. If you guys were in the Pittsburgh position, you're not getting rid of him, but you're not, unfortunately. So I want to ask all the Kings fans, you guys, the big question was whether Alex Iafallo was going to be traded yesterday or today, or if he was going to sign. It turns out he signed a 4-year, $4 million per year contract to stay with the Kings. I think that, first of all, I want to ask what you Kings fans think of that move. I'll start with Eric.
I like it. I like Iafallo. He's been loyal to the Kings because when he started with us, it was like the downfall. We got swept by Vegas, even though that series was like a 1-goal game every fucking game, the most frustrating series ever. But that's he had a first year of playoff experience, and then the next year they were terrible. Last year they were terrible. This year they're a little bit better. They're still not good, but he's remained loyal and he's remained pretty consistent with them during these times. So I'm glad. I think he deserved a contract. he's kind of like, I don't know, he's learned a lot from Kopitar. He seems to kind of mirror Kopitar's game. And, anyone that does that, the Kings are going to respect you.
Absolutely. Tyler, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I like it. He's a guy that not a lot of people talk about. As part of being kind of that Kings new core. But he definitely is. And obviously the Kings think that too. Inked him to a 4-year deal. So they trust in this guy. They believe in this guy. And I think Kings fans know that he's a legit part of this future. And I'm really, really excited that they signed him through it. I think he's going to be huge. Hopefully the Kings, get good enough. And I want to see him play on a bigger stage. See how he goes in the playoffs. I think this guy's going to be big for us going forward.
I like it. Alex, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I like it too. Tyler's right. He was kind of the first guy of this wave of young players to come in that are kind of, taking over as this new young core. And he's really kind of like a Swiss Army knife type of player. He plays good defense. He scores a little bit. He's a good passer. He can hit if he needs to. So he kind of does follow off of Kopi's mentorship or whatever. So I like it. Another 4 years to develop, another 4 years to mesh with these young guys that are coming. I think that it's a good signing for the Kings.
Yeah, I like it at $4 million a year for 4 years. I think that's a solid signing. James, do you want to add anything as a Ducks fan, or should we just move on?
Yeah, I don't even know who this guy is. So
fair enough.
No idea.
Finally, before I just name off like some random trades without really analyzing them, Eric, I'd asked Eric to look at this one. He was pretty. He wanted to talk about this one. Sam Bennett was traded to Florida alongside a 2022 6th-round pick in exchange for prospect Emil Heineman and a 2022 2nd-round pick back to Calgary. So it looks like the Calgary Flames were able to move up, get us on a 2nd-round pick in next year's draft for Sam Bennett, who hasn't been able to find a good stride in Calgary. He is an amazing playoff player, but Eric, give us your idea, or give us your thoughts on this from both perspectives, Florida and Calgary.
Exactly what I was thinking. Actually, he's an amazing playoff player, and the Florida Panthers are going to be in the playoffs this year. And they've turned things around. They got Joel Quenneville, a couple years ago, the Stanley Cup winning Blackhawks coach. He's kind of getting guys in there that have the playoff experience. They got Yandel, Barkov needs some more playoff experience on his belt, but this guy, as you mentioned earlier, is going to be a big glue guy for him. He's not, really a scorer, but he's like that ratty style of a player that you kind of need in the playoffs. He's going to grind out goals. He's going to fight. He's going to hit the shit out of guys. You probably are happy to see him out of Calgary, not just throwing dirty checks on your Oilers. You probably hate this guy, don't you, Tradon?
I don't really hate him. I actually always felt bad for him because he just I always thought he was one of those players that actually would fit well under a more of a hard-nosed coach. And he never really got a chance with his past coaches in Calgary. I thought he was actually going to get a chance with Daryl Sutter, but it looks like they moved on. But yeah. So you think this is a huge pickup for Florida? You think this is?
I don't think it's a huge pickup, but I think it's like exactly what they needed. I mean, it sucks that they lost Ekblad. He's not going to replace the presence of Ekblad, obviously defensively, but getting a guy like this to fire up the squad in the playoffs, like you said, stat wise right now he's doing pretty bad, but he's going to be in the playoffs. He's the type of guy that could flip the switch. Here's the biggest knock on this guy that I found out earlier. He was picked one pick before a guy named Leon Draisaitl. You ever heard of him, Tradon?
Yeah.
Calgary could have picked Leon Draisaitl, but they picked this guy instead. So,
yeah, that's a stat that I will throw in every single Calgary Flames face. We all know that Draisaitl is arguably a top 10 NHL player in the world, former MVP last year. And I mean, he's amazing. He's second in scoring. Completely different types of players, right?
Yeah.
But Eric, to your point, I think this is a good pickup for Florida. I think it was cheap pickup. I mean, they're looking to go for it. And I think that this is a nice pickup. I don't really have much to say more than that. Calgary really needs to figure their shit out. I think that we can agree on that. Like they're in trouble. This was a year for any of those Canadian teams to really give it a shot, and they completely folded. I thought they were going to make the playoffs, and they aren't even going to come close. So yeah, I think this was a big move for them, or this is a move for them to kind of get something from them. Just to finish up, a couple names that kind of got thrown out in terms of trade. Washington acquired Anthony Mantha from the Red Wings. Interesting move there. We all thought that Anthony Mantha was going to be moved along with Tyler Bertuzzi. It looks like Bertuzzi did not go anywhere. I have Dmitry Kulikov from the New Jersey Devils went to Edmonton for a 4th round conditional pick. Just shores up some defensive depth on the Edmonton side. That's kind of the major ones. I mean, I think we kind of gone through it, James. And David Savard that's a big one. David Savard from the Columbus, they traded him off to Tampa Bay for another 1st round pick. So Columbus has some picks this year, guys. So to Tyler's point. So that's all I got. I really appreciate everybody, chiming in. This was a long one, but I always enjoy talking hockey with you guys.
Love it, Tradon. As you guys were talking earlier, I was thinking about how we did like the predictions for each division at the beginning before the season started. I think you should go back and kind of see
we
if
will.
I'm right.
Yeah,
cool. I think I won.
Once we set up the playoffs, I'm definitely going to do that. Definitely.
Love it.